All right, welcome back to episode 134 of the Building Confidence podcast. This episode, we're doing something a bit different. We have three amazing members of the Diesel, Dirt and Turf Expo team on with us today to share a bit about the last 10 years of Diesel, Dirt and Turf because this year is their 10-year anniversary. So, quick on Diesel, Dirt and Turf. It is an expo that happens for the construction, mining and agriculture industry, and it's happening at Sydney Dragway on Friday the 17th, Saturday the 18th and Sunday the 19th of April. All right, so we have Michael, Emma and Zoe with us. So I'm just going to go around the room. Michael, could you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. I've been involved since day one from Diesel, Dirt and Turf. Uh, I became involved because I was doing a lot of work in the earth moving industry, which is really the focus of the expo. And I was doing a lot of site testimonial reporting, writing for magazines, and a lot of product promotion. And in that role, I became very involved in the industry, and I became interested in how the small businesses work in the industry, what information they needed, and what tools and technology they needed to make their businesses more productive.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. What about you, Emma?
I am the same as Michael. I have been involved since day one also. This is actually our family business. So for me, I sort of got thrown into it. I didn't really know what I was in for. It was just I put my hand up just to sort of give it a go, which was an amazing experience in the beginning. And then I just fell in love with it, and here I am today.
Yeah, awesome. And we do have a whole episode with Emma that is a few episodes ago about the Diesel Dirt and Turf Expo and her specific involvement as well. Zoe, what about you?
I came into it a little bit later. I started when I was like 14, I think. My dad's one of the exhibitors there, so I helped him out one year, and then the next year he hooked me up to work with Marti and Steve and Emma, and I essentially just worked the show. I think I was doing like QR scanning during COVID, and then merch bags, handouts, and all the front facing things, and now I'm doing merch stands most of the time, which I love because it's like the first thing people hit. But yeah, that's essentially what I do during this show, and I love it. Keep coming back.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so we kind of did how did you get involved and what were you doing before Diesel Dirt and Turf? Michael, what does Diesel Dirt and Turf mean to you?
Well, I think to me, that it is really impressive is the fact that it's an expo that's put on by the industry for the industry rather than having a big organisation that charges people a lot of money to come along and present and do business. It's been set up by the industry, and the price of exhibiting has been kept to a very affordable level to make sure that even the smaller companies, that perhaps people starting out, can come along. So it's very inclusive. It doesn't mean it's just the big people in the business. It's anyone who's got a good product to sell that's associated with the industry can come along. And the fact that it's very family oriented means a lot to me. The fact that you see people growing up in businesses in the industry, they're taking over their family businesses, and often you see two or three or more generations of people who have entered the industry coming along there. And it's very interesting and heartwarming to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, awesome. What about you, Emma? What does it mean to you?
So, as we mentioned in the previous episode, we read out Steve's mission statement, and he was very big on saying that the decisions are made by everyone in the family, not just the owner of the company or not just the operator or whatever it might be. So for me, I think, like what Michael said, the community, seeing the families come through, big or small companies coming through, willing to purchase machinery from also big or small companies that are showcasing their products. So it's very nice to see, and everyone is very relevant, whether you're big or small. So we really do value the whole community aspect.
Yeah, nice. What about you, Zoe? What does it mean to you?
Think pretty much the same as like Emma and Michael. I think they really hit the net with like it's always been very inclusive and community focused, which it's never changed from that since the
Mm.
get-go. Which is always nice because sometimes you get into workplaces and it feels like a family, and then you get years down the road and it's not a family anymore. So I think what they've really focused on is keeping that family community aspect, which it's just really lovely to come back to every single year. And I think that's why we have such a big crowd come through and why we keep getting such a big crowd and even more people coming through every year is because they just feel that community and that safety net. So yeah, yeah.
No, that's awesome. And so going around again, or how have you seen the expo evolve over the last 10 years? We'll start with Michael.
Well, the first year was a bit of a guess, of course. No one really knew what was going to happen. We were all biting our nails a bit, I guess, on that first day, where um, a lot of exhibitors were a bit reticent or hesitant to spend money and invest in it because they didn't know who was going to come along, whether it was going to be successful. So it took quite a leap of faith for businesses to say, yes, we will invest our time, resources, staff, and money to come along to a show. But the reason they came along was that they believed in the philosophy of being an industry show. Um, when the doors opened and the people started pouring in, we knew from day one that it was a success, and the crowds were large from day one, and they just got bigger ever since. And not only that, but the number of exhibitors and the type of exhibitors has grown tremendously over the years. And from our first Expo site, which was at Penrith, we've moved to the dragway at Eastern Creek because Penrith was a wonderful place and very convenient, but there were some environmental challenges of dust when the wind blew, not much shelter when the rain came, and it was not that easy for some of the equipment to be navigated around on the grassed areas. And eventually the Penrith site became developed for housing, and so that's why we moved to Eastern Creek, where we are really happy to be, and all the exhibitors are happy to be too.
Yeah, that's it. Michael, what do you think are some of the things that made the expo a success right from the beginning?
Well, the fact that it was aimed at families, I think, the fact that we considered, well, who was going to come, what would they want to see, what information would they need to make their businesses more profitable and productive, and how could we encourage whole families, including young kids, to come along. So that's how it was structured. There was entertainment for the kids. We had some motorbike stunts. We had sand pits where kids could play with their machines. We had the little mini machinery working. We had special toys for the kids, little mini hard hats, vests, and all the exhibitors really embraced this philosophy of being a family-oriented event. We had plenty of spaces where people could stop and have a drink, grab a great ice cream or hamburger or chips or something, and it was just a nice environment. That's what we wanted to establish.
Yeah, that's it. The environment and the vibe is so important for like anything to succeed, whether it's a workplace or an expo itself. So I myself have felt the vibe and the environment that Diesel Dirt and Turf creates, and definitely that's what you feel as an attendee.
I think it's just a general feeling of relaxation, and you can see it on people's faces when they came, even from the first day. They wandered around. There's no pressure to sell. The exhibitors were obviously enjoying themselves as much as the visitors, and you could get this sense of great camaraderie between the exhibitors, a lot of whom, by the way, were doing business with each other because it was an opportunity for them to get together and introduce themselves. And you saw lots of new deals happening that otherwise wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Diesel Dirt and Turf.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like as someone myself who attends expos more in the career space, yeah, that time and that environment for the exhibitors to then connect with each other is really important.
Absolutely.
That's it. What about you, Emma? How have you seen Diesel Dirt and Turf evolve over the last 10 years?
Yeah, I agree with Michael as far as the site at Penrith, it was fun, but it wasn't perfect. And where we are now, it's a little bit more of a polished sort of version, which is lovely. It's very easy for our exhibitors to navigate. The parking's fantastic for the visitors. Everything just feels like it works. But like any business, in the beginning, we were faced with many challenges and teething issues and, all that sort of stuff. So I think for us, even had we started out at the dragway, we still would have been faced with many challenges. But, the site at Penrith, as Michael said, it was a bit dusty, but nonetheless, we still had a lot of fun, a lot of people coming through. And Michael is right, it was very relaxed for all the families, which was really nice. And just an opportunity for all the exhibitors to network and finally meet face to face. And sometimes it's even within their own companies. Sometimes they've got their main branches in Sydney and they've got all these branches along the East Coast and they fly everyone in for our event and they finally get to meet staff that perhaps they've only hired over Zoom or, that sort of things. I think there's a lot of different aspects, but we've seen it grow. I mean, we've got so many international guests now as well and things like that. So I think it's gone from very local sort of, as Michael said, you had to win people's trust sort of thing in the beginning. No one knew what they were in for, neither did we. But now that we have that, we're able to show that, internationally too. We've got all these guests coming. So, it speaks for itself now is what I'm trying to say, I think. But just how it's grown as far as building that community as well, I think, yeah.
I think the other thing too, as exhibitors have seen the crowds come in, the repeat business, the interest from local councils, large prime contractors, and all those sorts of people, they're taking bigger spaces, they're attracting more. And not only that, but the technology in the last 10 years has changed so much. Huge amount of changes. There's been changes to materials, changes to lubricants, machine control, GPS, and even things like the finance and insurance options are now much more creative and available to people. And I think even the mum and dad operators know that if you don't come along to something like Diesel Dirt and Turf, you're going to be left behind in terms of being on top of the game with getting the best deal on finance, the right machine for the job, and also the huge number of things like specialised tools, specialised equipment, communications, lubricants, processes. All those things just make it something that people now know that they need to come along to. And we have a lot of exhibitors who came 10 years ago, and they're still coming every year for 10 years. And as far as the visitors go, many come every year. Others come for 1 year, but they come back the year after. You see the same faces there popping up all the time, and this is a great opportunity for people to realise that it's just pretty much a cohesive industry and everyone depends on each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And one thing that we spoke about in Emma's first episode as well is that it's kind of like a beginning to end kind of service at Diesel Dirt and Turf. We have finance, insurance, sales. You even have the opportunity to buy secondhand machines, service, your specialised equipment. It's all in one spot.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. Zoe, what about you? How have you seen Diesel Dirt and Turf evolve over, I think it's 8 years that you've been involved?
Yeah, I think it's been about that. Like, I started at the Penrith one too, so I remember the dirt and, the dust coming in your face and you're just covered in orange all day long, and it was great. It was like the best thing ever in the world, and I loved it. I loved the grunge of it. But it's like moving to Eastern Creek was such a good change, and it really allowed the event to just grow naturally because it was a different space. Like, some people don't like trekking out to Penrith, but they hear Eastern Creek, it's a little bit closer to home, it's that more central space, so it's easier for people to just be like, absolutely, we'll come to Eastern Creek. So I think that change really just shifted it so that it could grow so naturally. And I think where I've seen it evolve is just, we see the same people every single year, but we've seen international people come over. I hear about it out because I work in the city, so I actually hear about it in the city now, whereas 5 years ago, I would say DDT and people would be like, what is that? And I would have to explain it. But now I can say it and they're like, oh, that's that. And I'm like, yes, that's what it is. So I think like working in the events industry now, where I've seen it evolve is just the exposure and like people knowing about it. Whereas like, yeah, 5 years ago, when just started out in the events industry, it was like, what's that? I don't know what you're talking about. Even from people that lived in Penrith, they don't know what it is. So I think that's how it's grown. It's just like people know about it now and they want to go to it and they're anticipating it every single year. Um, and like you can see the difference because like we'll do exhibitions out at the venues that I work at, and it's very much just like sell. People are selling. There's no camaraderie. There's like no community. So I think why DDT keeps growing and like you'll see these exhibitions fall off after a year or two, like maybe max 5 years. DDT's like the 10 years of it, and it's because people just feel like I'm gonna go to DT for 3 days. It's gonna be so chill. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna interact with this one or this one or this one. We're gonna see these people. Like that's why people keep coming, and that's why it just keeps changing and evolving and just growing so naturally.
Yeah, no, that's it. And how has DDT impacted your personal career? Because, like we mentioned before, you're usually just involved for the 3 days of the expo or the 4 days around the expo. How has DDT impacted your career outside of that?
It, I think when I first started, I was kind of like, yeah, this is a fun thing to do. And then I think naturally I just kept getting events roles. Like I started out, I think my next job after that was a Christmas placement, like Christmas World, I think, and then did that for a couple of years and I loved it. And then I worked at Flip Out and I was a party girl, so I was doing all the party hosting and everything like that. And I was like, this is really fun. I love this. And then I remember where I quit and I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I just fell into this traineeship with City of Sydney and started doing the events. I started doing all the coordinating and everything. And I went in with that knowledge. I remember in my interview, I was like, I've done DDT for years. I was like a party host at Flip Out and stuff like that. And it was just like that confidence that I had in myself from 14 years of age, where it's like I always felt very comfortable working with DDT and like they really help you just break that like nervousness that you get when you're going into your workplace for the first time. So I think because I already had that and I was confident in myself, I could just seamlessly go into my traineeship that I did for like 2 years. And yeah, it's like it's not quite the same because I was only just like on the floor. So when I went into event coordinating, it was a little bit different, but I could think the way like I could think customer service ways that people didn't really think about when they were coordinating. They were just thinking about the background stuff. So whereas I'm thinking of both aspects, so I think that really helped me out by being on the floor for so many years and you know just being at it so young. It just really helped me. And I'm still doing it now. I'm still event coordinating, but I'm also that one's like I'm gonna go on the floor. I'm gonna go interact with people because that's the best part about it, seeing the event come to fruition and interacting, hearing about it, yada yada yada. Like I think yeah, DDT just really put me on a little path and I'm gonna keep following it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Especially like having that, like you said, that on the ground experience. Like sometimes some people can be so behind the scenes, they're just looking at
Yeah.
a spreadsheet and the logistics, but those logistics, they create a feeling at the end, and the customers and the exhibitors is what you need, like for them to be happy and comfortable and to want to
Yeah.
come back for a successful
Absolutely.
expo.
I think you can I think some people can just pigeonhole themselves a lot in the industry because they get so stuck in like I'm just a coordinator, whatever happens on the floor happens on the floor, but that's not how you have to look at it. You have to think about what you're doing but what's going to happen. So I think yeah, being on the floor and doing these roles for so long, I just got stuck in that like mind space of like I need to think about the consumer. I need to think about my staff that I'm putting out there. Like I can't just wipe my hands of it as soon as the event's in like the venue or whatever. It has to be I'm working with them and for them. I'm not just like whatever you do, you do. Like it's not my problem anymore. So I think yeah, some people can pigeonhole themselves, but I think because I did all these types of roles where it was like, no, 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 you're dealing with it. Yeah, it really helped me just I don't know, like just do better at my job essentially and like look at it in a different way that other people were like, oh I didn't never thought about it that way. So yeah, I think it's really just helped me grow in that aspect.
Can I just say, I think we've all learnt problem solving and how to reverse engineer many, many things. But yeah, you're right, Zoe, maintaining the relationships and all that sort of stuff, it's very big for us. But yeah, we've all learnt problem solving, that's for sure, and being very quick on our
Critical thinking.
feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, probing in on that a little bit, Emma, is what's something that you've had to problem solve like on the run at DDT?
Look, merchandise coming in the morning of the event, we might not have merchandise, what are we going to do? How do we navigate this? And just being very, very savvy at times too, just resourceful. We're on site, we're out in this big site, we're a little bit isolated. It rained one year, we had to get sandbags. So our team's laying out sandbags last minute, and not, we already had enough tasks to do, but we're just adding in extra tasks. So just being really quick to problem solve, rectify the issue, just so we can proceed with no issues. So I think that's probably little things like that. We've just sort of got to be really quick. So, but yeah, the merchandise, it did come in that year. But, we're all freaking out, of course, because you've ordered it months and months and months before, and, just little things like that. But you just face with them challenges, but you act quick,
Yeah, that's it. That quick thinking on your feet. You're dealing with other people in the moment. It's not like you're at the end of an email organizing something that can possibly happen in a few weeks. It's like this is happening like in the next 10 minutes, right now, tomorrow, like we got to get it done.
And unfortunately too, when we are setting up, we only have, 6 or 7 days to set up. So in that time, we've already got so many other tasks to do that when there is a spanner thrown in the works, so to speak, you sort of do really have to think quick because, just say, right, something happens Thursday night or the Friday morning. Well, time is everything because the event only runs for 3 days. So, if something can't arrive for 3 days, till the Monday or it's too late, so we really do have to act quick. So often we've had, our staff quickly running out with their car, going to grab things off site, and then they're trying to get back in with the crowd or the attendees coming in, and just little things like that. But we all pull together, and we do have really strong foundations within our team. So I'm blessed for that. So I feel a lot of confidence even when we do have little issues or hiccups happen. We do have a really strong foundation and really big support from our team. So I don't feel stressed about it. We just make it work.
Yeah,
The other
that's
thing
awesome.
is too, adding to Emma's comments, you get exhibitors who forgot to bring things in. A member of their staff hasn't turned up who was meant to be bringing something. There's a truck coming from interstate or across New South Wales that didn't arrive on time but got stuck. It arrived at the gate. Where we're going to put it? What about unloading? Where's the forklift truck? There's a myriad of these logistics things which are out of your control because of what happens to other people that Emma has to deal with at the last minute, and it's just amazing that it all gets ironed out, it all gets sorted, tempers aren't upset and voices aren't raised, and they all get resolved quickly and comfortably to everyone's satisfaction, which is great to see.
That's it. And I think as an attendee, you wouldn't even notice that these things are happening. There's no grumpy vibe. There's no random empty spot at the expo. Like you wouldn't even tell.
Exactly. It all comes together, but that's no accidents because there's a lot of planning, a lot of work, and a lot of knowing what's happening. The other thing is because so many of the exhibitors come back year after year, they have learned a lot too in the process. They have learned how to be more professional. They know what people are going to be asking them. They know what they need to do to make sure they've got the right PowerPoints and leads and number of seats and their pamphlet stands. So there's a lack of sense of panic in any way because people actually have trained themselves and they now know what they need to do to put on a good show.
No, that's awesome to see. Yeah, and to hear about the back end, because I think sometimes as attendees we see the 3 days and then you go back to, or one day if you only attend one day, and you don't know what happens behind the scenes. So yeah, thank you for the three of you for sharing that experience with us as well. One thing, yeah, go Emma.
As well, sorry, I think what Michael's trying to say as well, which I 100% agree, with the exhibitors as well, and even with us, I think we've learnt along the road what is expected, what we need to do, how we can navigate next year better. And I think for us and also for the exhibitors, it creates a lot of consistency. We all know what to expect now. We all know, just how to be better prepared, so that's very helpful. But also with what Michael was saying about, a truck not coming in on time or something like that, like ordinarily that's absolutely okay. But when you've got Friday morning, you've just opened the gates and you've got all these, attendees rolling through on foot, you can't bring freight in anymore. You can't offload. You can't have, your forklifts running around. So I think the exhibitors have learnt now, okay, if I'm not in by a certain time, I cannot drive through, and that's, because of the crowd, and that's because of this and that. So, we don't want to seem unreasonable saying, oh, well, you're late, whatever, you're not let in. It's, it's because we're limited with what we can and can't do once that gate is open, which is exactly what I was trying to say before. Once the gate's open, the time runs out, essentially. We've got 3 days and that's it. And if we're limited. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for adding all that in, Michael, actually. That prompted me.
Yeah, that's it. And even with that, it's a safety thing as well, like especially just industry in general outside of the expo and just being in that earth moving industry, safety is such a big thing. And it's no different to being at the expo with all of these big machines around.
Absolutely. Yeah, having a forklift driving through the crowd and offloading trucks and, taking delivery of people's freight, it's not safe at all. So, yes. Yeah.
And you're dealing with big heavy machinery, you're dealing with just buckets and attachments that weigh huge amounts of weight, the compass them. You just need to have a clear space to manipulate and position these things so that, as Emma said, you just cannot be moving stuff around once those gates open. That's it. But it all happens, and the exhibitors have learnt that now, and they've planned around that, and some of them took a bit of convincing, perhaps a couple of years to get their act together, but they do that now. And particularly major sponsors like our gold sponsor Komatsu, they do an amazing job. They've got a very large stand and they have huge amounts of gear there. But it's not only them, it's the other companies. They've got some of this equipment weighs tons and tons and takes up a huge amount of space, and they've got to get large machinery in. They've got float trucks. They've got whole teams that are involved just getting the machines in and getting them on site. So it's a very big operation as far as the exhibitors are concerned. Not only that, but after the show finishes, they've got to clear the site very quickly as well. They don't get much time. So certainly lots of people involved in the background, and it's the regulations, government regulations and safety and OH&S that all's got to be observed throughout the whole site. There's a reason for everything. There's a reason why you can't bring dogs in, why you can't do this, why you can't do that, and it's all about safety and compliance.
That's it. And I think we have the Diesel Dirt and Turf Expo has the benefit that we're actually able to see all machines of all different sizes. But that then also means the reason why we don't get to see those machines so often is because of the safety side of things. So we have to be aware of that at the expo as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think people have to appreciate the fact that they can come and see things that ordinarily they would not have access to. So, some people, you see them, they may or may not be disappointed by, we can't sit on this machine or we can't touch this or whatever, but, you're still as close as you're ever possibly going to ever be, So people, I think, I think the most part do really appreciate what they can see at DDT because, you just don't get access to this sort of stuff normally.
That's it. Unless you're working on the floor, or out in the dirt pretty much, you're not going to be this close to these machines in any other circumstance.
Well, we do have a demonstration site where people can actually stand behind a fence in safety and they can watch some of these huge dozers and excavators do their stuff. And the young kids particularly are fascinated. Well, and us older kids too, we love watching. we love watching piles of dirt being thrown around. I mean, who doesn't, for God's sake? So,
Yeah. No, that's
so there's plenty of action. Not only that, but some of the exhibitors have machines set up so that young kids can get on under supervision, and they can just pull a few levers here and there and just get a great feel for what it's like to sit on a machine with a diesel engine or electric motor under them and just move some dirt around. So that's fascinating to do.
Yeah,
yeah.
as Michael said, I think it's so true. I was a hairdresser prior, so I would be, taking time off and working the event. And I'd see a lot of my clients come through with their grandchildren or whatever it might be. So I've got all these wonderful women coming through who, don't really take an interest or aren't in the industry at all, but they have come through the gates and said to me, wow, this is just incredible. I think it's just so fun for everyone. Whatever your interests are, there's still quite a high level of novelty. So there was one particular woman I remember seeing, and she was saying goodbye, her and her husband and the two grandkids. That was like 1:00 in the afternoon. Anyway, we're locking up the gates and we're getting everyone out and whatever. And Leo comes running out, and I'm like, oh my God, you're still here? I thought you left 4 hours ago. She goes, we just decided to stay. It's just there's too much to see, and it was just so much fun. So I think it's really great that it is of interest pretty much for everyone. There's something to see, and it's fun, It's good.
That's it. Well, my final question for you guys was, what is some of your most memorable moments from the last 10 or 8 years? And that, Emma, sounds like an awesome one. Yeah, that's it. Michael, what about you? What's your most memorable moment?
I think on day one, when there was just a sea of faces and high vis and anxious people just busting to try and get through the gates. I mean, that was just amazing. You know what? Every year we see the same thing happening. I just can't get over the fact that people pour into the car park. They're there at 9:30 on day one. They know what they're coming to see. They've got a plan for the day, and they're all just happy and excited to get in there. And not only that, but it's just the enjoyment on the faces of the kids and the families. Once these kids get in, I mean, it's like being at Luna Park for them, really. That's basically what it is. It's like a cheap version of Luna Park for them, only much better, more fun.
And can have some.
I'm super emotional. So for me, as Michael said, when you see, all the people lining up at the gate and they're so excited, just the energy for me, I think being exposed to all these people, the energy for me, I feel very overwhelmed, and I get very emotional every year when the gates open. So it's a beautiful experience for us on this end. Yeah.
It's like a bit of theatre, really. It's like a big musical production. You've got all the cast rehearsing all the year, and all of a sudden the time comes. That's it. The gates open, the curtains up, and bingo, off you go. That's what it is. It's showtime.
I sort of look at our team, or I say to Mum, what we've done now. Whatever happens now is out of our hands, all of the planning. And I think that's why maybe emotionally I just always seem to let go, because it's like, finally we're here, we made it, the crowd showed, the exhibitors have set up, they've displayed all of their stuff beautifully, we're ready to go, let's go. And it's just like showtime. And them 3 days, it just happens so quick for us, and I guess it's like what Michael was saying, you put all that planning in, and even people that plan a wedding, you plan this wedding, it might take you 2 years, and then it's over in 5 hours. And for us, the 3-day event, even as far as the bump in and bump out goes as well, that whole 2-week or 10-day sort of duration for us, it's like you blink and you miss it, because it's go, 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 because that everything that's in place now is just, we're here, this is it, so yeah, it's very overwhelming for me, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. And I suppose for you, Emma, the tension starts to build probably even for the next one before, say we're doing 2026, you've probably already got some things in place for 2027.
Yeah, absolutely, because as I said earlier, each event that you do, so, we might be on site, say, and you're sort of saying, how can we do this better next year or whatever, but, you're already planning that next event, because perhaps there was somebody who booked a space and then said to you, 2 weeks before or something, look, logistically this isn't going to work for us. Can you roll our site over to the following year. And so you sort of have, there's a lot of moving parts every year, and you sort of, you're already preempting sort of what's going to happen based on the interactions you've had with the other exhibitors. And, or even as Michael said, sometimes exhibitors come and showcase their products biennially. So you know that they're not on site this year, but you know they're coming back next year. So then you're allocating space for them, and you're sort of already thinking about how next year's going to work, but it's not based off this year's sort of skeleton. You're sort of using this year's skeleton mixed in with all the other bits that, are happening in the background. So there is a lot going on always, but it's definitely, it does actually mimic the hairdressing thing for me to a T, because, you're sort of juggling, a tint on, and someone's at the basin, and don't let that over process. And you sort of, I feel really good. I feel confident in my job because of that. And I think, as Zoe said too, what she learned at DDT now threw her into her new role at her other job. So for us, I think, everything's transferable, and I know it's very different to the hairdressing thing and the Pilates teaching thing for me, but it all makes sense, and we just thrive. We just love it. We make it work.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Zoe, what's your most memorable moment?
I think there's so many. I think I'm very much like Emma as well. I get really emotional for those 3 days because I love people so much, and I just love seeing people enjoy stuff. And when I know how hard the team has worked all year to bring this up every single year, like it and you can just see the relief on their faces when it's like, we're here, we're good now, and they can relax, they can go do their thing. Like, that is probably like one of the best things, because then you just see all the people that come in, and all the families, all the kids that, like, they have their merch from last year, and they're so excited to go play with this thing, or go to this stand to talk to them about something, or just to see stuff. Like, I think just seeing the people come through every year is the most memorable bit, and just seeing the people that come through every single year, and then the newbies that you're like, you've never been here before, but you're gonna have a great time. I think it's just the joy that you see on people's faces that makes the show what it is.
No.
Sorry, I think too, it's not only that joy in their faces, but when you see exhibitors with a whole lot of people in their site wanting to know about their product, or introducing people to a product or a service that they haven't known about before, when you see the enthusiasm and the interest on the faces of the visitors, it's almost like a discovery, like we're discovering something new. And if we weren't here, there's no way we would have known about this. And from the exhibitor's point of view, they get so many inquiries every year that they give their sales teams about 6 months of work to follow up all the inquiries. So there's a lot of satisfaction on both sides. The exhibitors are satisfied because they're selling their product, which is why they're there. And for the visitors, they're learning something new. They're getting some information, or a product, or a machine, or a process that is adding productivity and dollars to their bottom line to make their businesses better. And that's why the show keeps going. People get something out of it on both sides. So it's a mutually beneficial environment where both sellers, buyers, families, and everyone involved in the whole environment of the earth moving and construction industry gets something out of it. And that's what really makes it so successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Emma, what were you going to say before?
I was going to say, actually, what Zoe was saying, the relief on the team's face when the gates open. I can truly say, though, we are only relieved to be there because of our team. So I'd like to thank our team, because the relief is only because we know that we're so supported. If we knew that we had to do that all on our own and then navigate that whole weekend on our own, we would just be, we'd have so many challenges. But because we have so much support and we do have such a beautiful team, that's why there is so much relief, Zoe. So Zoe's one of them, Michael's one of them. We just value our team so much. So I'm very grateful for that. So yes, there is relief, but it's not because we're there and the gates have opened and whatever. It's because we know that our team are with us and we're all together. So it's one time of the year where we're all on site together, because a lot of people do work remote, or, we are dealing with people up in Queensland or, whatever that might be, but we are really on site all together and we just feel very grounded during that time. So I'm grateful for that. And that's where the relief comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Is there anything else anyone would like to add before we wrap up?
I think we've covered it.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered it. I can't think of anything else that I'd like to add at this stage. So
I
thank
think
you
we
for
all
having us.
we all sort of have something else to, we all sort of view the show differently. Like, Zoe's, like she said, she only works the weekend, and Michael works remote, and then I'm face to face with Marti. So what we see, we all see different things, So I think what we've put in today to this conversation, I think we've all bring our own little bit of flavour, which I think is lovely because we're all got different view. Yeah.
That's it. And now attendees will have a little bit of information about the behind the scenes, and maybe you might have some people you haven't met before recognise you from this conversation and know the hard work that you guys have put in leading up to the 3 days.
Thanks, Louise. Hopefully.
Hopefully. We'll see what happens. But anyway, if you've listened to this conversation and you're interested in attending the expo, the information will be in the description box below. And also, if you're interested in exhibiting at the expo, whether you're a startup or you're a larger company, Diesel Dirt and Turf offers packages and, open to having a discussion with you to see what's going to work for you to exhibit at the expo. So that information will also be in the description box below. And like we said, the expo is happening on the 17th, 18th and 19th of April this year, 2026 at Sydney Dragway at Eastern Creek. So get your tickets. You can get your tickets online or at the gate, and hopefully we'll all see you there. All right. Thanks everyone for coming on today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. It's been great.
Thank you.